Gregory Hunt was just executed on June 10, 2025. He spent over 3 decades on death row at Holman Correctional Facility, where he was executed by nitrogen hypoxia in Atmore, Alabama. In this video, we'll go through the brutal crime that led to his death sentence, the details of his trial, his final hours, his last meal, and his final words. Gregory Hunt committed a horrific crime on August 2, 1988, when he was 28 years old, brutally murdering 32-year-old Karen Lane in Cordova, Alabama. Lane was killed in the apartment she shared with a woman who was Hunt's cousin, following what prosecutors described as a violent break-in and sexual assault. The relationship between Hunt and Lane had lasted approximately 1 month before the fatal attack. The medical evidence presented during Hunt's trial painted a devastating picture of Lane's final moments. A physician who performed the autopsy testified that Lane died from blunt force trauma after sustaining approximately 60 injuries throughout her body, including 20 wounds to her head. The attack involved multiple weapons, with court records indicating that Hunt used his hands, fists, a broomstick, and a bar stool during the assault. Physical evidence linking Hunt to the crime scene included fingerprints and witness testimony, which prosecutors used to build their case against him. The sexual assault component of the crime became particularly significant during the legal proceedings, as it elevated the charges to capital murder under Alabama law. However, this aspect would later become a source of controversy in Hunt's appeals, as he consistently denied sexually assaulting Lane while acknowledging that he killed her. In a phone interview from prison, Hunt stated, "Karen didn't deserve what happened to her," describing how he had been consuming alcohol and drugs on the night of the incident and became jealous after seeing Lane with another man. Hunt's legal journey began with his arrest shortly after Lane's murder, though the exact timing of his capture is not detailed in available records. The case proceeded to trial in 1990, where Hunt was represented by court-appointed attorneys who had limited time and resources to prepare his defense. According to court filings, his initial lawyer was appointed just 3 months before the trial date, with another attorney accepting appointment only weeks before the proceedings began. On June 19, 1990, a Walker County jury found Hunt guilty on 3 counts of capital murder. The first count related to killing Lane during the course of a robbery, while the other 2 counts involved allegations that he murdered her during a sexual assault. During the penalty phase, jurors voted 11-1 to recommend a death sentence, which the judge subsequently imposed. Alabama and Florida are notably the only 2 states that allow non-unanimous jury recommendations for death sentences during the penalty phase of trials. The defense team's limited investigation meant that jurors never heard about Hunt's traumatic childhood, including his upbringing in a violent, alcoholic family that was physically and sexually abusive. Hunt had periodically lived in group homes and began using drugs during childhood, factors that could have served as mitigating circumstances during sentencing. This lack of mitigation evidence would later become a significant issue in Hunt's post-conviction appeals. Hunt's time on death row, spanning over 3 decades, represents one of the longest tenures in Alabama's death row history. Since 1988, Hunt has led Bible study sessions attended by approximately 24 inmates, earning him recognition as a spiritual leader within the death row community. The Reverend Jeff Hood, a Catholic priest who serves as Hunt's spiritual advisor, described him as someone whose story represents spiritual triumph, and noted his courage in ministering to others on death row. Hunt's favorite activities include writing gospel songs and singing them, though he humorously describes his singing voice as sounding like a weed eater. Gregory woke up early this morning at 5 a.m. when he received visits from his closest family members. According to reports, his last meal was a pizza, which he shared with his family and a corrections officer. At exactly 6 p.m., Gregory was executed by nitrogen hypoxia. He spent his final moments strapped to a gurney, with a blue mask covering his entire face. Although Hunt did not speak any final words, just before the gas was released, he appeared to make a thumbs up and peace sign with his fingers. Shortly after, he briefly struggled, gasped, and lifted his head off the gurney. He took a series of 4 or more shallow breaths with long pauses between them, and showed no visible movement after 6:05 p.m. Authorities pronounced Hunt dead at 6:06 p.m. at a prison in southern Alabama. The closest thing to last words came in an interview with the Associated Press just 1 week before his execution. There, he reflected on his religious faith and described prison as a hospital to heal my broken mind. "I'm just trying to be a light in a dark place, trying to tell people that if I can change, they can also become people of love instead of hate." A statement from Karen Lane's family expressed deep gratitude to the Walker County District Attorney's Office, the Alabama Attorney General's Office, and Victims of Crime and Leniency, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting and advocating for victims of violent crimes. The family emphasized that this night was not about Gregory Hunt, nor about closure, but about remembering Karen Lane and the pain she endured. Karen was shown no mercy. She was not given a second chance. The statement read, "Karen was shown no grace." The message ended with a quote engraved on her headstone by her mother, Betty Sanders. "Crime will not decrease until being a criminal becomes more dangerous than being a victim." Just like Gregory Hunt, who was executed in Alabama, Anthony F. Wainwright was executed on the same day in Florida by lethal injection. Wainwright was sentenced to death for the 1994 murder of Carmen Gayhart, and he, too, spent more than 30 years on death row. And this doesn't stop here. In just 2 days, on June 13th, Stephen Christopher Stanko is scheduled to be executed in South Carolina, also by nitrogen hypoxia. Thanks for watching this episode of Criminal Records. If you want to know all the details about the execution of Anthony F. Wainwright, just click the video that's now appearing on screen. See you next time.